Just looking at the screen, like even though I think Glenn, we're roughly the same age, it looks like a dad talking to his two kids.
And to think I talked about pasties on the podcast.
With your dad. Have some respect.
Hey everybody, we're here from Good Movie Monday. Ben Helwig, Samantha Housen, how are you?
Good. How are
Good.
you,
Dad.
Dad?
Well,
I got a pain in my ass, but you know me, I can't complain.
we're going to attempt a conversation here about Stephen Lang, the actor that you may know best from Avatar. Was also in Don't Breathe and Don't Breathe 2. Wasn't in Lights Out. He wasn't in Lights Out, no. If you go and listen to our podcast on Monday, we did talk about Stephen Lang films by way of 6 Degrees of Separation. So that was a fun attempt at tying our recommendations into Don't Breathe 2 as some kind of weird promotional thing.
Yeah. Flash. What episode are we on now, Glenn?
What episode are we on?
What episode of the podcast are we up to?
Oh, fucked if I know. I don't count them.
Like I know I think it's, whatever episode it is, 154 or whatever it is, we are officially out of ideas.
Well,
that's what that episode indicated.
The problem is that our podcast, Good Movie Monday, is on the same feed as our previous podcast. So the FakeShemp.net podcast, Franchised, Rewind, Digress, it all counts as episode numbers.
Yeah. I'm just going to go with it, though, because it's better than 48, whatever it actually is. Like, no, we've totally been doing this for 150 episodes. I'm tired.
So the obvious thing to talk about with Stephen Lang, there's 2 points I want to make. Firstly, that Avatar 2, 3, 4, and 5 are in production or pre-production or post-production, whichever one you look at, which tells us he's not going to die. Like, we know he makes the distance.
Well, I'll believe it when I see that Abyss Blu-ray.
I know.
4K.
It's the same thing with Peter Jackson, right? We're waiting for the important films to actually get some kind of proper release on Blu-ray or 4K. And The Abyss is another one. James Cameron, this guy of technology, can't give us a fucking True Lies, The Abyss, two visually delicious films he can't bring out. Outrageous.
He's fixing them. He wants to fix them. And everyone who saw episode 1, 2, and 3 and those Star Wars redos that George Lucas put out knows that you can't fix things.
Yeah.
People don't like it when you try. Just let it go.
How can you fix True Lies? Or, how can you actually fix that isn't just restoring or making it 4K?
I think he'd augment new effects into it.
I think he's just upset that in Mission Impossible, Tom Cruise hung out of an actual airplane while it was flying, and Arnie just did it in a studio. Like he's getting Arnie now to go back in, hang off that jet.
That's right. Eliza Dushku carried that scene anyway.
Yeah.
She did all the hard work.
Well, that's right, yeah.
But the other point I wanted to make about Stephen Lang, which I mentioned to Ben on Messenger privately last week, is the fact that he was the reporter that gets strapped to the wheelchair and set on fire in Manhunter. And I remember that character being a fat little dweeb. Hilarious.
And we talked about him in a film, I don't know, was it last week or the week before when you talked about Detox?
Yeah. And he was the same kind of character.
Sorry, I see you.
It's just been released on Blu-ray as I See You.
As I See You. It's so stupid.
It's silly. Detox is the movie, but yeah, he plays a character with the same little perm and glasses and chubby cheeks.
Yeah. Before he hit the gym, I don't know when he decided to make that change, but it's done him well.
He's like a chameleon. He's unrecognizable when you go. I
saw a picture of him and Christopher Walken doing Hamlet in 1982.
Off
a
you
picture
go, Ben.
of him.
How does that go?
I'm not going to do it, but I just can't imagine Walken doing Shakespeare.
Yeah, I know.
Go on, give us some to be or not to be.
To be or not to be. That is the question. I can't. It's horrible. Horrible.
The question.
The We on? No, I can't do it.
Oh shit! All right, well, take it away. I'm just gonna sit back and let you two talk.
Oh, okay. But I was going to say that Stephen Lang has become now. Do you remember there was that? I mean, I don't know if you guys get them because I think they do definitely tailor YouTube ads to their viewer. But there was a period of time where every second YouTube ad I watched was an old man, like with his shirt off, talking about how he attracts the babes by working out and taking this supplement and getting buff. And you're like, that's Stephen Lang.
When you said when you were talking about the algorithm being tailored to each viewer, I thought you were going to talk about those Viagra ads.
I don't get those.
Must just be me.
That's 100% you guys.
Someone's got to hold up this show.
Yeah. It was a good thing you've got all the right moves. Hey, holding up. It all ties in. Go back and watch all the right moves. It ties in.
6 degrees of Viagra.
Yeah.
He was in Mortal Engines. I don't remember him in that. I don't remember much about the film because I just hated it so much.
I didn't. Is he maybe the cyborg?
I don't know.
That chases her through the whole thing.
I'm going to look up some pictures here. Give me a sec.
Is that the main villain?
The kind of well, you think he's the main villain, but it's the main villain's actually the person in the.
Or was he like the senior bureaucrat of the society or whatever? Was he like one of the overlords or whatever you call them?
I got the feeling it was someone else who was the.
Oh, it might have been Hugo Weaving, yeah.
Yeah, someone like that. Someone a bit more kind of slimy, but who couldn't carry out their own dirty work.
Tell you what, I'm looking at IMDb right now, and there's an actor called Patrick Malahide that looks an awful lot like Corbin Bernsen.
Yeah, I thought it was Corbin. You're right, Patrick Malahide, who doesn't when you it's only in that circle that he looks like Corbin Bernsen. He's no Roger Dawn, but yes, Stephen Lang is Shrike, so he is the cyborg thing that chases them through the whole movie. The assassin. Fantastic film that it is. Mortal Engines. It employed. Look, let's just say that it employed a lot of people in New Zealand, and leave it at that.
Yeah, when there's no more Middle Earth to pillage.
Yeah, they tried to create a new one. It's another one of those, but isn't another one like City of Ember, where it's based on a series of books?
Yeah.
Just this one. I mean, half the time those things don't work, but this one definitely didn't.
Yeah, they don't. It just doesn't translate. Those young adult books.
The thing is, like Ben and I sort of view City of Ember differently. He doesn't like it as much as I do, but I completely get Ben's criticisms of it. The book is so rich with textures and themes that the film just didn't translate, and it would have been great. Sorry,
the world makes total sense in the book, and in the movie they rush through so much of it that you're like.
I do agree. I think I watched it with rose-tinted glasses and I still enjoy it. But this series of books would have been so delicious had they have continued the film series.
Had they done it and finished it. But the funny thing about you hating Mortal Engines is that I thought this was very similar to City of Ember. Like it has that same kind of hero's journey as City of Ember.
But my problem, one of the reasons I hate it, but I think the strongest reason was that it was just dumb. The fact that this city is moving across, like a tank, that to me was just even though it's a fantasy film, that was just jumping the shark that bit too far. Whereas City of Ember, I can totally imagine a society being submerged underground to outlive, the radiation of a fallout,
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, the core ideology of the City of Ember films make total sense. And when you read the book, you realize how it makes even more sense. Like it is like a total different proposition to how they kind of.
And did you finish the series of books?
I haven't read the last one when they go back.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say, because they go back and it's fantastic when they go back, and obviously there's no more light down there. It's great. It's great. Anyway, digression. What other Stephen Lang movies? This is the problem. Stephen Lang makes such random, rare, weird movies that it's hard to talk about his career because I haven't seen half of them.
I actually picked out and I was trying to use it for the podcast, but I thought it might have been cheating a little bit. But the Uncharted live action fan film,
With Nathan Fillion,
yeah, and that was like so brilliant. And I think a lot of fans got a kick out of it, which was great. But obviously, they've made a new one with Mark Wahlberg as the character that Stephen Lang plays.
Mark Wahlberg is playing Sully.
Yes, yeah.
Right.
So it's very different.
I mean, it is perfect. Like, he is perfect casting as Sully.
Oh, exactly.
Nathan Fillion, as good as he is probably 10 years too old to be playing.
I know. That's the only thing.
Like, he could also play Sully.
Yeah.
Not, like, he and Stephen Lang don't seem that far apart in age.
Yeah. If they could do like an older movie, maybe, where they're both still at it. But I think that it's such a shame. It's such a shame that they weren't able to make that movie.
Yeah, it could be like Uncharted 7 Retirement Village.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would be a movie and a game I would love to play. Like, could you imagine like half of them, like, they're jumping up on the like train tracks, then crawling and like climbing up at the side of a mountain, and then like, my back, I'm stuck, and then one of them is just stuck there. And that's the thing, like, you play the other character who constantly has to rescue. Like, I've got a rope, I'll pull you up. My back.
Like, it could be like one of those 2-player games where you have to play with someone else. Yeah.
That
would be great. I would love that Uncharted.
I mentioned a movie on the show that he did called The Amazing Panda Adventure. Do you remember in the mid-90s there was that whole slew of kid-led adventure films that kind of had like darker undertones, like poaching and things like that in them? Reese Witherspoon was in like A Far Off Place, I think it was. But there was Alaska with Charlton Heston as the gun crazy hunter. Who was in that? Was it Thora Birch?
Funny thing is, when you said that, I thought you were going to talk about movies like Operation Dumbo Drop,
that
and
too.
Larger Than Life, like like adult, like
no,
somehow Pauly Shore.
No, they came at the same time, and they kind of are in the same sort of domain. But there were a whole lot of kids ones as well, where these, like what was the
Flyway
one
with, Home? Flyway Home was one of them.
Yes, exactly, and The Adventures of Yellow Dog, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, Milo and Otis. But
I love that era, that 90s era, and these movies all got theatrical releases. You wouldn't just get that these days, they just go straight to streaming platforms. And they had good productions, they went to locations around the world and shot these things.
Well, that was Disney used to have a rich history of that stuff. Like, remember things like Journey of Natty Gann and
exactly
stuff like that. With these, like, I don't really want to go back and watch Journey of Natty Gann anymore because I remember being kind of a bit too harsh. Like, I don't want anything to happen to the dog.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to.
Well, you've seen, Ben. I have a whole shelf in my garage full of those Disney films that are that kind of the live action Disney films. It goes right back to the 40s, Davy Crockett's and your Third Man on the Mountain, all that kind of stuff. That era of Disney is just the best.
Keith David. Or Brian Keith. It's Brian Keith. I was trying to think of the Third Man. Isn't Third Man on the Mountain? It's Brian Keith or David Keith, but I think it's Brian Keith.
I think it's Brian Keith. Yeah. But
it's
that's
it's
my favorite mountaineer film. You got your cliffhangers and your K9s, but none of them compared to Third Man on the Mountain.
Well, I don't think any of them. I'm pretty sure if I remember the cover of the DVD correctly, one of them is wearing a stupid beanie.
Yeah, yellow beanie.
Yeah, and that's what you don't get.
Or is it red? Yeah, that's what you don't get in the other movies.
You get those in in Everest or what was that Chris O'Donnell one?
Oh God, that was Vertical Limit.
Vertical Limit. Like, none of them are wearing stupid beanies in that film, and it's real disappointing.
But for a movie that was made in the mid-50s, like, that is more exhilarating than any of the mountaineering films I can recall. Like, it's awesome. But yeah, so The Amazing Panda Adventure, Stephen Lang was in that. I don't remember him in it. I just remember the really annoying kid that was in it, which I'm going to see if he's gone on to anything else. A lot of precocious kids in these films back then.
Was it like The Shermanator or... what was it, Jonathan Lipnicki?
Ryan Slater was his name. Let's see what else he's been in. He's got he's been in a lot of shit. 2 Graves in the Desert. He was in Badass too.
Oh.
With Danny Trejo.
And Danny Glover.
Danny Glover.
Who's in the third one? Who's the other? There's a third old man in that comes.
Is it an old man or an old woman that's in number 3?
Oh, is it? Who's? I don't know who it is. Who is it?
He was in The Babysitter in 1995
with Alicia Silverstone.
Yeah.
That one?
What am I looking up? Badasses 3,
Badass. Yeah, badasses.
which is in the Bayou, isn't it?
Is-
I think number 3 is in the Bayou, isn't it?
Yeah, it sounds like a logical progression for that series.
Well, last week Badasses on the Bayou. Last week I watched Gone Fishing with Danny Glover on the Bayou, and now Danny Glover's in Badasses on the Bayou.
He loves going back to the bayou.
He does. Who's in this one? Let's have a look. Oh, John Amos.
John Amos. Like you haven't lived until you've seen John Amos in a thong in Beastmaster, and now he's in a badass.
Some of these actors, man, classic character actors. John Amos, Coming to America. Oh,
He's so good. So they got sesame seeds on their bum. We got no sesame seeds. So good. McDowell's.
Anyway, before we wrap, this is the most nonsensical video we've done to date. Is there any other Stephen Lang stuff you want to talk about, or are we just going to wrap it up?
Fire Down Below is one of my favorite Stephen Lang movies.
Yeah.
And I didn't even realize Stephen Lang was in it, because in this, it was like many of his films, in this one, he's actually playing one of the villains. And he's playing Mark Helgenberger's skeezy, pollutant brother-in-law, or no, brother. Because this movie is typical of Steven Seagal movies around this time when he was an environmental warrior. This one, he's what's his name? Jack Taggart. So he's one of the cops from Beverly Hills Cop. But now he travels he works for the EPA, and he travels to Kentucky, to Bonehead country, and he pronounces the Appalachian, like it's all set in the Appalachian Trail. And Steven Seagal he's like Appalachia. He's like the whole thing, and you're like, I don't know, is this?
Well, you don't want to be telling Steven Seagal he's pronouncing something wrong.
I don't know. I don't know if he is. It just
he might hit one of those. He might do one of those pressure point moves and flip you with his finger.
Yeah. I saw all those videos of him fighting the Russian karate master.
Yeah. Oh, isn't it glorious?
Like I tell you what. Like before, when we were before I came onto the show, I heard a banging outside, and I went to check out because I thought maybe the back fence had blown down in the wind, because our back gate now is held up by 2 sticks of wood and a nail because the timber is rotted. I thought maybe it's fallen on my car, so I went out to check, and the gate was still there, thankfully. And I thought, let's just have a look and see what fell in the backyard. I'll just jump up to see over the fence. I was able to jump about that high off the ground. Like it is, I have not jumped in a very long time, and I have lost the ability to do so.
Did you feel like gravity had betrayed you?
I felt like Steven Seagal in a Russian martial arts tournament.
Have you seen the video or heard the podcast of Joe Rogan talking about Steven Seagal and that video of the Russians? Because Joe Rogan is like an expert, quotation marks, expert on fighting and MMA and all different kinds of martial arts. And he reckons that in that video with Steven Seagal, even though it's clearly bullshit what's happening, he reckons his technique in that particular martial art is precision. And he breaks it down.
I think he
breaks
knows,
it down.
Yeah, I think he knows what he's doing. It's just he looks so lazy when he's doing it.
Like I mean, in that video though, the men are throwing themselves around.
Yeah, they run and do a somersault past him, and he just puts his hand out like when you twirl something in your finger, like an elastic band, and he's just like puts his arm out, and they just swing around him and go. It's like watching a circus act.
Yes, circus.
But I did find it rather fascinating the way Joe Rogan was not defending, but breaking down that video and saying why there is merit in there. Yeah. So anyway, look it up.
What he talks about is that while he was in Russia doing that, he kept his maid was locked in his sex dungeon under his house. Allegedly.
Well, another allegedly, he's the reason Albert Pune could not release that Cyborg Nemesis film that he shot, because Steven Seagal changed his contract on Albert.
Changed his contract.
Yeah, he had a contract, and he went and filed some kind of lawsuit against them because he wanted to change the stipulations of the release and stuff. It was actually crazy.
I didn't know. I mean, that seems to go against the whole purpose of having a contract.
Well, I know. They just abandoned the film, but it was shot. It was weird. But anyway, all right, let's wrap it up there. That's just one of the dumbest videos we've recorded.
Stephen Lang.
You've been really down on this video and this week's episode, Glenn. Like really, like
no, it's hard to prepare for it.
The whole show.
It's so hard to prepare, right? Because it's so chaotic.
No, the show, I've got no issues with the show. I think the show is fantastic. I think it played out very well. But these videos tend to always have some kind of thread and a theme that we can sort of stick with. And this is just random conversation. Do you know, I was on a podcast last week called Diary of a Crowdfunded Film. And he was asking us about the social media videos and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, they're kind of like as if we had a Patreon, but we don't make people pay for the content. Yeah. You know, like, so this is so people that only watch these films and these videos and don't know we have an actual show that is structured and makes a lot of sense. You might want to go and have a look.
Yeah.
Or listen.
I'd feel really bad if we made people pay for these videos. Like, even when they really work, I'd feel bad.
I'd still take their money.
Yeah, I'd be happy to take their money. I'd feel bad about it. It wouldn't stop me from taking their money.
I'd have to like have something that they didn't know, which would be really hard. Like, I feel like if you give people money, you want something in return. And I'm not funny. So I have to know something to return for it.
I reckon if we charge for this, I'd have to nude up. It'd be horrifying. But at least then they'd be getting their money's worth. You're like, celeb jihad would overfloweth.
All right, I'm going to have to launch that Patreon so we can do an experiment on that.
Yeah.
I can't believe that no one called me out when I said celeb jihad would go crazy, as if I qualify as a celeb to appear on celeb jihad.
You've talked about it that many times on the show. I just sort of went with it.
I'm sponsored by them.
I've got this image of you on that video peeling the pasty off.
Yeah.
You know?
It would make a noise like that.
No, I reckon it'd be more of a long peel. And then at the end it'd be like a bit of jelly. Yeah.
And it'd be all red. It'd be like, like your jeans kind of around your waist kind of thing, like the red tracks where the belt is. Does that happen to everyone else? Or is it just me?